What if Miltank was in Gen 1 OU? Now, out of all the Pokemon I've covered on this series, Miltank here is the one that definitely feels the most at home. Which I guess makes sense considering it's a female variant of Tauros. But despite it being yet another normal type, it's better than your typical Tauros clone. And it's not just a worse version of one of the RBY OU normal Pokemon. You might think it's like a worse Tauros, or like a second Tauros, maybe even a second Chansey because of Milk Drink, or just a second Snorlax because of its bulk. But it doesn't really play like any of them. Because of its unique stat line, it's kind of its own thing, which I'm really glad to say. For starters, it's weird that its best stat is defense, but that's a huge part of what makes it so good. This thing is a very, very good switch into Tauros, and with Milk Drink, it's actually a pretty consistent check as well. Better than Cloyster, Gengar, Tauros. Gengar and Tauros obviously can switch into normal moves, but then Tauros has super effective coverage to 2-hit KO both of them. In Cloyster, even if we just ignore Thunderbolt Tauros for a bit, it's mostly a good check, but because of crits and paralysis, sometimes a Cloyster can just kind of fail. Miltank doesn't suffer from either one of those. It doesn't really care about Tauros' Blizzard and Earthquake, and because it's a normal type, it can't be paralyzed by Body Slam. That means the only thing that it could be worried by is a critical hit, but as long as Miltank's being careful with its Milk Drinks, it could always play around the crit, survive a critical Body Slam, or even a critical Hyper Beam, and then just beat Tauros 1v1. This alone is a fantastic niche for Miltank, but along with that, it also just manages to be good in general, because it's a Tauros clone, so like, you just have all of the good things that fast normal types have. You have 100 speed, so you have Zapdos' speed tier, you outspeed Jinx, you throw in a lot of things with Body Slam, and even though 80 attack isn't the highest thing in the world, with Stab, it's hitting pretty decently hard. The only coverage you really need is Earthquake, because even though it's not doing as much as you would want it to with the Rhydon, despite being super effective, because of Milk Drink, you always just beat Rhydon 1v1, unless Rhydon gets a crit or something. But spoiler alert, with 100 base speed, you are way more likely to crit than Rhydon is. With Milk Drink, Miltank kind of just takes care of everything, to be honest. And even its special defense at 70 isn't that bad. That's the same as Tauros' special. And 95 HP, I'd say is above average for Gen 1 standards. Overall, it's just doing a pretty good job at what it wants to do. And the main thing it wants to do is check Tauros. And it can just carry along with that. Nothing really wants to face Miltank 1v1. You can kind of take Miltank against anything, and it can probably hold its own. Now, I wouldn't recommend putting it against, like, Paralysis spammers, or, like, Psychic spammers, but if you need to, it could definitely work. Granted, Paralysis is pretty annoying, but at the same time, Miltank is probably one of those Pokemon that doesn't care as much about Paralysis. And that's like the only thing I can really see beating Miltank 1v1, actually. Like, crits could happen, crits could carry and kill Miltank, but most likely, it's probably gonna lose once it's paralyzed and it doesn't get a Milk Drink off. But that's really good. Like, the fact that, like, nothing can really want to fight it 1v1 because of Milk Drink, that's awesome. This genuinely might be my favorite Pokemon I've ever covered on the series so far. Which is weird, but you know what? I'm happy for her. By the way, if it isn't obvious enough, because of the thumbnail, Miltank and Tauros are madly in love. In my community, especially in the Discord server, there's a running joke about Megalopony also trying to, like, you know, persuade Tauros' heart. But nah. Miltank is his forever girl. They're happily married, and we support them. Speaking of Tauros, I wonder how these two do. Well, you probably already know from what I said, but let's just look at it together, shall we? Miltank versus Tauros. And that body slam's only doing a quarter. Honestly, pretty good. I guess I could have maybe looked at a counter or something, but I think just the body slam, hyper beam, earthquake, and Miltank is more than enough. Anything else just kind of goes in the gimmick territory. But as you saw there, Tauros got a crit, but Miltank was able to take care of it pretty easily. This is what I really like about Miltank, and what kind of makes it a more consistent check than Cloyster. If Cloyster got hit with a body slam, and then immediately got crit with another one, it's probably not going to do much. Also, there's just the tech, where it can just be defeated entirely with Thunderbolt. But Miltank here, I actually don't know for sure if Miltank can survive a critical Hyper Beam. I'm pretty sure it can. As you saw there, it survived a critical Body Slam and a Hyper Beam from Tauros. Surviving both of those back to back is really impressive. Now next up we have Snorlax, and as usual it definitely depends on the set. And even though Miltank with Miltank can take it on, I'm going to recommend not using it, because Snorlax is a pretty big deal, but Tauros is a bigger deal. Also, look at that. It can survive a critical Hyper Beam from Snorlax as well. I'm not even sure if Tauros can do that, actually. But Snorlax is a pretty big threat. And since there's plenty of things that can fight Snorlax, mainly your own Snorlax, I would say that they're better off using Miltank to check Tauros, because you really don't see that often. And Amnesialax is also, like, I completely forgot I made a replay with Amnesialax. Sometimes I wonder if I should even bother, because obviously there's never really a situation where Snorlax would just build up against a Miltank, not when there's Stab Hyper Beam. But it's just a good go either way. It really just depends if Snorlax is set up or not. Now here's the one I was planning to talk about, and that's Chansey. And for this replay, I kind of made it the best case scenario, minus going for counter against Hyper Beam. I gave Chansey Reflect, and because of Milk Drink, you can actually stall out Chansey and just try to fish for a crit on Body Slam or Hyper Beam. Which, that right there, this is probably the reason why I say Miltank is just kind of its own thing. Because, like, Snorlax is bulky and hits pretty hard, but does have recovery, nor does it have high speed. Chansey has recovery, but it doesn't have a good crit rate, nor is it really hitting with strong stab moves. And Tauros hits pretty hard and has a good crit rate, but doesn't have recovery. Miltank really is just one of a kind. And I can definitely see why Whitney used it on her team. Now, the other Chansey sets kind of was a bit harder, but I still feel like no matter what you put in, it could go either way. Although, if it's Bolt Beam Chansey, what is Chansey really doing there? Probably not much. And like, even a Thunder Wave here, it's kind of annoying, but for the most part, Miltank just has the bulk to go for Milk Drink whenever it needs to. So overall, I'm pretty sure could go either way is still fine though. And I also went for a best case scenario with Alakazam as well. I have Reflect on this. And maybe that wasn't fair. Maybe I should have just gone for a regular Zam. Although I feel like it doesn't matter anyways. Because in the 1v1 between these two, it's really just, does Zam get the crit? Which it very well could get the crit. So like, I don't really know what to say here. Like, do I just tell you that, like, oh yeah, like, the physically free out Pokemon might lose the Body Slam. But for the most part, just like with Tauros, it doesn't really want to deal with a healthy Alakazam. While at the same time, if Alakazam's paralyzed, of course Miltank just kind of feast on it. Next up, we have Cloyster. And this one's honestly kind of bad. It's kind of funny. You would think with Miltank in the format, kind of taking Cloyster's main job at teching Tauros, it would, you know, fall off of my ability a bit. But in place for not being like the best Tauros check, is now being replaced by just able to easily beat Miltank. With 80 attack, it's just not hitting very hard. And Blizzard is more than enough to 3-hit KO Miltank. So, yeah, Cloyster is doing fine, because the very thing that's trying to take its job, it can just very easily defeat. Also, it's just a Cloyster. Blizzard and Clamp and Explosion are just good in general. Next off, we have everyone's favorite Eggy. And Eggy he hits pretty hard. And out of all the Pokemon that we're, like the special Pokemon, does it do better than Starmie? I guess it doesn't have recovery, so I probably shouldn't say that. But at the same time, Psychic hits pretty hard. There's always Explosion, so I don't know. I feel like for this one, 80 attack, even with stab, just isn't enough. I feel like Exeggutor can just very easily outdamage it. It's also just a very weird interaction. So, I don't really... Yeah. I don't think there's much I can really say here. It's just kind of a could go either way, and it really just depends on what's happening before and after to determine who really wins. And RNG. RNG with Body Slam, Paralyzing, Crit, Special Drops, all that, also pretty relevant. The Gengar here is pretty funny. You're taking up to where you just kind of beat Gengar pretty easily. Now, it's really going to put in could go either way. As you see there, even a Psychic into an Explosion just wasn't enough to kill Miltank. You need a crit. So I think Gengar is actually in the good matchup, which, yeah, wouldn't have expected that, but I'm happy. We have Jolteon, and I had this rant yesterday on how Jolteon replays are kind of weird. I'm kind of considering not even going for Thunder Wave, and for these replays just going straight for Thunderbolt. Probably for the best. Not much I can really say here, though. Miltank just kind of helps you consistently beat Jolteon. With a crit, sure, Jolteon loses, but would it even stay in on Miltank and go for the crit? Or, you probably wouldn't, because Miltank itself crits a lot with Earthquake. So, yeah, just a good matchup. But not a great matchup. I actually do think Jinx is a great matchup. Now, granted, with Lovely Kiss, like, that's a big issue, but I don't really rank these Pokemon based on how they do against status. And Miltank definitely is not a lead Pokemon. But if you do manage to get a situation where Miltank faces a Jinx, and there's already Pokemon asleep, so there's Sleep Claws, as you saw there, Body Slam and the Hyper Beam is a big threat to Jinx, and if Jinx gets paralyzed, it's just kinda over. Now for Rhydon, you're faster, and that's definitely a big plus here. And unlike regular Tauros, even though your Earthquakes are only 4-hit KOing it, it is more than fine because you have recovery. So you can take your time beating this Rhydon and just fight it at your own pace. And even if Rhydon were to go for, like, go get a crit or something, you can still survive that. And now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure Miltank also just kind of takes Porygon out of a job as well. Since Porygon can go for recovers against Snorlax, but Miltank can do that more consistently while also being able to face Tauros as well. And Rhydon, actually, now that I think about it. So, sorry Porygon, but you have literally no reason to be using OU anymore. You have my condolences. Maybe one day I'll finally do Porygon too. Now, if Cloyster's a pretty bad matchup, Slowbro is kind of unwinnable. You just don't have the damage output to really threaten Slowbro. And as you saw there, even a critical hit is just not enough. Slowbro can take its time with you. You won't be able to kill it in time. That's just what you get when you have super high defense. Miltank just kind of loses. But it's fine though, because like the vast majority of its matchups are still pretty good. Now, Starmie is interesting. Paralysis initially could put in Starmie's favor, but it probably won't take too long for Starmie to also get paralyzed. And once that happens, it's really just anyone's game. Another advantage Starmie does have, though, is that there's more recover power points than Miltank power points. But then again, there's also Miltank with stab normal, and just in general paralysis. It's a bit of a geezer, I guess you can say. It kind of makes you win matches you probably shouldn't have. But in this case, like, I probably could have continued end the match right there, but I kind of wanted to give Miltank a chance, so I decided to just intentionally make Starmie not kill it. So overall, I think it's just could go either way. It really is just because of paralysis. But I do think it's pretty cool that because of recovery, you could just be able to potentially outlast Starmie. I don't know when, but I really want to use Miltank in Generation Jumble. And for those who don't know, I host tournaments in my Discord server based off my what-if scenarios. Because I do acknowledge that these 1v1 replays aren't accurate representations on how something would do in OU. And you want to participate in one, or if in the very least you just want to watch them live or just talk about Pokemon in Gen 1 OU, from the Discord server. I also want to have you guys' opinion. Would you be more open to non-what-if videos and just non-Pokemon videos in general? Because I was planning on having more versatile content, but I'm honestly surprised at how well my return has been, to the point where I'm kind of scared to do anything that is in Gen 1 OU. Please let me know in the comments, because if you guys are open to it, I definitely would like to make some more out there videos, I guess you can say. But for now, we got 2 more replays left. We got Miltank versus Victreebel, and then Miltank versus Zapdos. And here with Victreebel, obviously something like Sweet Powder could change things dramatically, but I don't want to rank this based off if a Pokemon has been put to sleep or not. Stun Spore could potentially make Miltank win the 1v1, since for all intents and purposes, Razor Leaf is hitting pretty hard. But at the same time, at some point, you can just get a paralysis with Body Slam, and if that happens, Victreebel's kind of screwed. So, maybe this is just my bias talking, but I feel like good matchup is more accurate than could go either way. Because I feel I don't know, I feel just with the recovery alone, it's just more consistent from Miltank. And I don't really feel like Stun Spore alone is enough to make the matchup more even. Especially since not all versions of Victreebel even use Stun Spore. Obviously, yeah, it's a good move. I'm not denying that, but I don't know, I just feel like Miltank consistently wins more. And more importantly, I just don't think you're risking your Victreebel to try to beat Miltank of all things. But that's just my 2 cents. I'm sure Zastream will, tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. And I'll heart it, but I won't read it. Heck W. Last but not least, we got Zapdos. And these two have a speed tie. It's pretty interesting, I would say. And I'd say it initially helps Miltank more, because it's just hitting her with normal stab and with Body Slam and potentially getting paralysis. It kind of puts Zapdos in a weird spot where it's do you paralyze the guarantee you're faster? But if you do that, Miltank's getting a free hit. So what exactly do you do? I don't know for sure. I'll probably figure out one day once I have Miltank in a Jumble or mini Jumble, but we'll have to see. Overall, here's the tier list, and it's not very often you see Tauros in good matchups. Now, is it? In fact, I actually want to put it at the top here. Now, this probably isn't too surprising, because again, Miltank is Tauros' wife, so if anyone was to be able to, keep Tauros in check, it'd obviously be the spouse. What do you think? Do you think Miltank would be OU? Where do you think it would be in the viability rankings? Because now I'm curious. Do you think it's possible to be able to be in the, S tier? I'm going to say probably not, but I do think Miltank would be in the high A tiers. But maybe I'm just glazing, and I'm just overestimating it. But I won't know until you tell me. So until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.